So the key in the vehicle that they find is a stand-using turtle by the name of Coco Jumbo. Coco Jumbo, the turtle, with a key inside. Now, once this key is put in Coco Jumbo's shell, there's a room that they can safely inhabit. So it's basically a they're in a key in a turtle on a train.
Do they ever say his name in the anime?
I don't remember.
I don't think they do. So it's even.
Yeah. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Volume 1, the anime and manga podcast where we highlight and discuss new series each week. But today we're back with more JoJo, which means that my name is Josh Golden Boy Michaels. And today I am joined by
Mehgan Mafioso Paris.
I love it. Thank you for tuning in to another Volume 1's Bizarre Adventure installment. Today we're going to be talking about Part 5. This is our Part 1 of 2 video. We're going to be talking about episodes 1 through 21. We watched the anime once again, and there's a lot to talk about. We discovered a lot about ourselves while we watched this. Every time we come back to a new JoJo part, I mean, our order in which we love them kind of changes, I feel like. And it was no different this time around. Before we go into it, we're going to start with our general thoughts, and then we'll go through after that more beat by beat to make sure that we don't miss anything. But right out of the gate, Mehgan, how did you feel watching this first part of Part 5, Golden Wind?
Going into it, I had no idea what it was about. I knew the main character, Giorno. Like, it sounded very interesting, the name. So I was like, I wonder where it's going to be set. Excuse my voice. Sorry, feel a little under the weather. I'm good, but my voice is just a little shot. Thought I should preface that before I started talking more because it just sounds like crazy.
And just in case you hear some, coughs or sniffles.
Yeah.
She's tested.
Yeah, I tested. I'm
but
good.
It's cold or something. But we have to trudge forward. We got to do what we got to do.
But yeah, I knew his name. I knew what he looked like. I felt like when I saw JoJo, anything about it before I read it or watched any of it, I saw these characters. I saw Giorno, I saw Bruno, I saw Narancha. I saw all of these characters, and I thought that I just like kind of in my mind said like, this is JoJo. Not like even Jonathan or Jotaro. Like I saw these characters.
Or Joseph.
So, which is really odd, but I think this is a little. I think it came out like 2018, 2019. Is that
the anime adaptation? I believe we can double check that in a second, or I can put up. I think 2019 is what we're seeing here.
Oh yeah.
But that was the David Productions anime adaptation. I mean, this part in the manga came out even longer before, way longer. Way before actually.
But yeah, I had really no idea what it was going to be, where it was going to be placed, what like the major plot points were going to be, and I was so blown away. I mean, I'm blown away every time just because it is something new, something fresh, with a little sprinkled in, especially with the stands now. I knew we were going to be getting stands, but this is just like, it's so fun.
Elevated, it feels like,
it's
to me.
So fun, and the characters are really like shining. I feel like in other parts before, we've had like Polnareff, we've had Avdol, Kakyoin, like these characters like shined, right? But I feel like especially in this part, like we get so much more time with them. Backstories is like such a huge thing in this part, which I've been like craving. We've gotten them, but not this in depth, and I feel like I connect to the characters so much more than I ever have, and I just love all of them and all their dynamics. And when we talk about JoJo, we think about family, and this is like taking that theme and elevating it because it's like a chosen family, not like your blood relatives,
right.
And actually like going against your blood lineage, which is what Giorno's doing with being Dio's son, pretty much.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. I mean, this part I didn't know what to expect either, but I agree that I seem to just see this more often, see these characters more often for whatever reason, and I know that it's kind of split. I know in Japan that this is the most popular part of Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, but definitely different, I think, in the West, and different for each individual person. For me, it's so hard to compare part 4 to part 5 in any part really to each other because they are so different.
Yeah.
Part 4 is very campy, very, mysterious, very intimate in its setting, and the town itself becomes a character, and I love it for its even slice of life moments at times.
Which I was a big fan of. I really loved Morio and everyone living in it. It just felt so lived in too.
Yeah, for sure. But this is not the same story. Like, yeah, it's still JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but it's just not the same story. So comparing it doesn't even seem fair at times. I do have to say, though, initially, like, based on like first impressions as we were watching it, this was some of the most fun we ever had watching a season of JoJo.
Yeah.
Something about part 5 feels so urgent. Like everything keeps moving. Every episode is just building off of the episode that came before it. Sometimes in part 4, the plot would be moved forward and then you'd have these smaller moments, which I think we enjoyed because we got to, again, meet the inhabitants of this town.
Yeah.
But this is like a big plot that's established and that is built upon each episode. Not only is the plot built upon, but the characters are built upon. Yeah, go ahead.
And it's even like you said it exactly. Like part 4, those moments were kind of sprinkled in with just like slice of life elements, and even part 3, it was like way more of a not like grog, but it definitely kind of towards the end there, it was just like
right in its episode length. For
sure. It was so long, and it was. Yeah, it was so much. All of them have just it's improved, and you can definitely just like feel it. And I gotta say, the art style is back. It's back. Like I really missed the classic. Like I know it's still JoJo, but like this just feels JoJo. Like I saw my boy Jotaro. He's back. He's looking good. He's looking fresh, and I just love it so much.
Yeah, that was something that I noticed right away. Was the art style and the animation style changed drastically. Of course, Iraqi, and we saw this even when we bounce back and forth, because we do bounce back and forth between the manga and the anime. And everything in part 4, the anime seemed so much softer, which I actually liked. And the aesthetic of part 4 as a whole, I really enjoy. I really enjoy this, like, sort of like, it is sort of nostalgic, and it is sort of like, I don't know. There's something like, I don't know if vintage is the right word, but there is something.
Well, it's like trying to invoke, I think, that like feeling, because I feel like with part 4 specifically, like it was kind of like teetering on like a wholesome show, mixed with like really
the
horrible
craziest seinen shit we've ever seen in our lives.
Yeah, the most horrible, like murderous activity. So I think it was just like to be there to juxtapose to that, especially like Koichi, like all of them just look kind of cute, but it's like the underlying dark side of like what's actually happening, which is I like. But this, it needed to be harsh. It needed to be, those lines, those shadow, like it just fits the story so well, because these are like badass, like super badass characters. But I also think that there's a shift even in character in this part, where before, and I love, obviously Jotaro will always be one of my favorite, if not my favorite, JoJo character. Josuke gave him a run for his money, but Giorno in all of these characters that we meet in part 5, Bruno especially, are giving all of these other characters a run for their money. It just, Iraqi keeps like creating characters that I fall head over heels for. And I think, okay, so it's part due to the art style, right? Like the art style in the anime is finally starting to, I think, match the bold, like heavy lines of the manga and really capturing the spirit. But it's also the setting of part 5, like being set in Italy. Yeah,
I think just lends itself to this like different kind of beauty, which also again is sort of shown in the character physiques as well. Before, it's so funny. I love Iraqi. Like every time we see an interview with him, and we watched a couple in preparation for this video, like I fall more in love with the man. Because before, Jotaro, Joseph, especially part 3. Like if you look at part 3, and I guess any of the parts that come before it as well, but the men are huge. They're Herculean. They're giant. They're godly. They're Fist of the North Star. They're huge. However, when we shift into part 5, and you can see him kind of sort of starting to deviate from that a little in part 4 with Josuke and everything like that. But really here, there's a more emphasis, I think, on femininity in a way, and beauty.
Beauty, yeah.
And I really, really like it a lot. The interview that we were talking about is somebody was asking Iraqi about the characters in part 5. And, talking about the setting and everything like that. And they were saying like, oh yeah, well, it takes place in Italy and there's all these characters that are very beautiful. There's all these beautiful men. And Araki goes, yeah, that was part of the point of part 5, like really wanting to capture the beauty of like men, like femininity and beauty in men. And he's like, but the interviewer's like, but I mean, there's beautiful women in it too, though, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Iraqi's like, yeah, but it's about the men and it's about beautiful men. And this interviewer's just like, and that's why we love him, dude. I mean, he's such a visionary and he knows what he's doing. And I love this man. He's just so happy too. Like I know being a mangaka, from at least like what we see as outsiders looking in, is incredibly one of the most difficult professions you could choose to have, or to do. But something about him he seems so happy and so full of joy. Like doing this, creating and telling these stories, like brings him so much joy, and he's just so happy.
Well, it's like you look at Rohan, it's like a self-insert pretty much. Like Rohan is like obsessed with like making new stories, creating dynamic characters, taking like real life experiences and putting it into his work. Like it's just so funny to see them. Him just be like, "This is me," but on obviously a more dramatic scale. Manga, as Rowan say, like you're like a manga character. Like I want to be a manga character, manga protagonist. It's just so funny.
The art goes crazy, and I think that David Productions, the studio, did a fantastic job adapting it. Even in characters that we met for the first time in part 4, like Koichi, seeing Koichi in this newer style, like it feels fresh, but it also just feels crisp. It feels different, but the same, but more in line of what my idea of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is. Not only that, but I want to keep going off of what you said, because there's so many great things that you said about even the characters and finally getting backstory. Dude, like this was another reason why I feel like this part moved so fast, but also never felt like there was any lull. And I was on the edge of my seat and cared so much about every single character, was because we get introduced to the boys at a certain point, and we get backstory for all of them, but not just like some quick, like thrown in backstory, like some really traumatic, thought out, fleshed out backstory. And it just really endeared me to all of these characters. Like I care so much about all of these characters. And I think ultimately, in terms of like Giorno, the protagonist, that is the only reason why I feel like as a protagonist, not that he suffers, but because like the same thing kind of happened with Josuke to an extent, where it's like Josuke is the protagonist of part 4, but there's so many characters in this town that it's hard to really give him the stage and the shine like all of the time. So many other people take that and it just gives less time for Josuke to kind of like be the front man. And similarly, Giorno suffered that to an extent.
I feel like definitely in the next part, it's gonna be him and Bruno like really, really figuring it out. Not that everyone's gonna take a step back, but I feel like that was so important to this first part, is to let those other characters shine, because like we know Giorno, it's going to be like him against the big bad. And it was cool to see everyone else have a little bit more shine before that happens, and just to show like really how he is as a protagonist. Like he did go through really traumatic events, and it makes sense why he's so kind of detached and like cold, but like also really, really smart and cool-headed. And he's like the most cool-headed, just like go with the flow type of protagonist that we've seen. Of course he'll like go against the grain, but I think it was so cool to see this like set up as the MC, Dio's son, like all of this shit, like boom, 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 like oh my god, he's gonna be crazy. And then for him to just kind of like he needed to be in the backseat because he's like joining a gang to infiltrate this bigger, huge thing. Yes. So he needs to just kind of like, maybe that's not a good idea. Okay, like really earn their respect. And I think that was so, so important. And if he really went guns blazing and was just like, fuck your ideas, fuck like it wouldn't have worked. That's why he drank the piss.
That was crazy.
That's why he drank the piss, because he's just like, I need to get
the golden shower. Yeah,
I need to get in with these guys, because it's just like they said for 5 episodes in a row, like we don't know this guy. We don't. You're vouching for him, but you've only known him for like 3 days. Like why are you vouching so hard for this guy? Because they didn't really know the overall plan until the end of this part. But still, like he, it made sense to why he was kind of chilling back, and everyone got their backstory.
And why Bruno is really at the forefront of a lot of this. I mean, there are episodes that are dedicated exclusively to some of the other members of this group, but why Bruno is, the front man for a lot of it, because he is the leader of this gang, and even gets
brought
a
everyone
promotion,
together.
and he brought everybody together. To the femininity point and the beauty point, which I love, it also starts to feel in this part like a couple things. Like, first of all, I know that stans have had like their own personalities before this. There have been many examples, even like Echoes to an extent would have a dialogue with Koichi from time to time, and even that wasn't the first. Like, there were stans that we had been introduced to that had their own sort of independent personality. Not just that they existed independently of their stan user, but that even with their user, they had this like relationship, this spoken relationship. But I feel like it's really, really done even more so in this part. I mean, with the Sex Pistols, even with like Purple Haze, like they have personalities separate from their user, which I think is really cool. But also in terms of the stan battles, like that, because there's been this shift, the battles are more about like strategy, creativity, more so than I think brute strength. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and that is like really, really, really shown and on full display with even like Golden Experience, like Giorno's stand, like the ability. I mean, I was racking my brain as to how Araki was going to outdo Crazy Diamond. Like, how was he going to do that? Like, such a cool, like, not only like concept, but visually how it worked was so awesome. But I don't know, man. I mean, Golden Experience is kind of even crazier because it just allows for so many things to happen that like you would have never thought you would ever get to see.
Yeah.
And it's so much more about strategy and so much more about creative problem solving than it is about fists, solving problems with your fists.
Because he's able to, like generate these things, like these living things, but like they don't fall under his jurisdiction pretty much. Like he can make them alive, but it's like he doesn't know if it's going to like turn on him or
but they have habits, they have things.
You can't control it. So it's just like a cool way because he can like heal too, which we find out by making like real limbs, right? Or like not reattaching, but like making them new again.
Well, he has it was during a stand battle towards the end of this chunk of episodes that he kind of meets his opposite.
Yeah.
And through that is able to realize like, oh, I can create. The human body is technically a living thing, so I can create new. He can't necessarily heal, but he can create new body parts and sort of heal that way, but not in the same way that Josuke was able to just like
rewind time.
Rewind time.
Yeah,
it's a little more challenging, I think, for him to heal than it was for Josuke, but yeah, he's still able to do it.
Yeah, and I like how there is obviously with most of the stands there is like a catch. It's not all good, which is what I like with him. As his stand is like so sick. Again, like, oh, I turned that into a snake and it's gonna bite him.
But
I'm like, what? Like
the extent of which Giorno was able to use his stand sometimes, and again, like this is always sort of a part of JoJo. Like it's so out there that sometimes I'm always able to meet Iraqi there. I'm always able to like meet him there and have fun in this world that he created. But sometimes I do feel like it is stretched like very thin. And I just mean in terms of like the concept, I guess, because Golden Wind is able to do things later on that are and we're only halfway through, so I imagine that it's going to get even crazier. But he's able to do some things that seem like very overpowered. One of which is at an end point of these episodes. He not only like recreates another stand user, the turtle, but is able to recreate the turtle and its stand ability, which the implications of that seem absolutely insane and kind of way overpowered that he can recreate a living thing and its stand ability. And sure, like maybe like you were saying, he isn't in full control of using it, but the fact that he can even still do that kind of blows me away.
Well, it's like a stand ability is connected to the person, the user. So it would make sense that he's able to do that because they're connected, in some way. Because if one dies, the other dies,
But it's just crazy. So there are two turtle stand users, and at what point do they revert back, and how long do they stay in that form for? That's also a question. I think that he has said and been in situations before where it just kind of happens, or it's his stand ability that's like holding this thing together. Or does he create this thing and then it can go on and just be this other thing forever? I don't know. Because I feel like we've seen, like in the case of the snake, we've seen it kind of happen both ways, where it was having like a hard time. I feel like when it was getting to tracking down its stand user, it was having a hard time maintaining that sort of snake form. But then it does seem like there are other times where, this rock can just be a bird forever now. I mean, but anyway, the creativity of it is mind-blowing, like mind-blowing. Iraqi is really flexing again in the stand battles.
Yeah, all of the whole gang that we've seen, all of their stands are really, really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all so creative, and seeing them, like, I loved the setup of, like, having their backstory and then them have like a kind of a fight immediately after that or before that
or during we're getting their backstory during
which I really enjoyed. It was really cool.
Which is crazy. This man is insane that he's creating like, oh yeah, I'm not going to only create a new protagonist that is a scary feat to have to accomplish. Like, after everybody's fallen in love with the previous protagonist, the protagonist before that, I'm going to create a brand new protagonist for everybody to fall in love with. But I'm not just going to do that. I'm going to create 6 other characters that people are going to fall in love with too. I mean, this man is on another planet, and we love him for it. But yeah, I ultimately think that it's hard again. I want to go back and just reiterate. I don't want to sound too repetitive, but I do want to say that it is hard comparing the two. But I think initially this first half, I was way more in it than I expected to be. And I think
for different reasons.
For completely different reasons. But I think I might be so far enjoying this part more than part 4, even though part 4 I love, and it is like very high or right there. I mean, they're tied at number 1 because they're not the same. They're not the same. Like, you cannot compare them.
Yeah. You get to say I like them all, like equally.
Right.
Like, because it's so hard to pick one over the other because they're all so different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just like, again, the first couple episodes, I mean, 1 and 2, episode 2 for sure. That's what I knew. Like, Bruno Bucciarati is coming.
Right.
Bucciarati is here, bitch.
Yeah. Let's talk
one
about
of the best JoJo characters of all fucking time. Like, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with him.
Too.
Like, I can't. Like, I literally, like, he's so cool. Like, he's just so cool. Like, why is he that cool?
He is like a leader. He is so, even his stand, Sticky Fingers, and how he's able to use it. And we see that too early on.
Yeah.
Like, not only is it this like zipper to another dimension, but like unzipping his own limbs, zipping other people's limbs back together, or using someone as like a flesh suit, unzipping them, crawling inside of them.
Insane.
I mean, insane. His stand is incredible. He's incredible. He's swaggy as hell. He's a beautiful man.
Mm-hmm.
He's a leader, like I said. Like,
he has a sensitive side. Like, he's just got the whole package. Like,
he's the whole package, dude.
He's the whole fucking package. Like, episode 2 was like highlight best character introduction I think that we've had in JoJo thus far. Like, for real, because it was just like, I mean, of course, seeing like promotional art, I knew that all these characters would like somehow be in the same vicinity. I didn't know like gang. I didn't know any of that. But
I didn't know the mafia angle.
No.
At all.
But just the introduction and him just like questioning Giorno, and it's just like so intense and so like,
it's way more intense than I expected it to be.
Yeah, and then it's just like the way he's talking to him. Like, it's all just like business. Like, it's all just like business, mafioso, like shit. And it's just so good.
Well, that goes back to an Iraqi interview where he stated that he wanted this. I mean, obviously he's, very, I think infatuated with, and I only say that because I have been reading a couple of the Rohan Kishibe like spinoff stories. And there was one where Rohan goes to Italy for research for a manga, and I was like, I wonder the timeline on that. Like, is this like Iraqi when he went to Italy for research for a manga? You know what I mean? But you could tell he is really, and he states in this interview that he is fascinated with the idea of a cast of characters that are in what you would consider to be a bad situation or part of a bad organization, but not because they're bad people.
Yeah.
Because life and their circumstances
and their families and everything
life has sort of forced them to choose this as their only option to be able to survive. They're not bad people. They're actually really good people. And we see that with all of them, but life has sort of left them no other option. This is the only way that they can survive.
Yeah, and that's too. I mean, why I like it so much, because it's either like, like, again, choosing your own family. Like, everyone that we've seen in JoJo thus far has like had a family, pretty prevalent family, like Polnareff with his sister, Avdol with his dad. Obviously,
no, Avdol, that wasn't his dad.
Who was that? His
that was
brother?
Avdol. That was Wait.
Wait. When they went to go,
that was Avdol. I thought you remembered that. That was like the big. That was like one of the biggest problems we have.
And they were talking to him, and he was like, "Don't talk to me." And Polnareff the whole time.
That was Avdol. Yeah. You just realized that right now? Yeah. Yeah, it makes it kind of worse. What they did to my poor Polnareff, dude. Leave the man alone. He's been through enough. He's suffered enough trauma and guilt and shame.
Oh my God. Why did I not? I'm so fucking dumb. And that's fucked. That's even worse. Good God.
Yeah,
they're like, damn, he looked really like similar.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But we have seen family for sure.
Family, Jotaro, Joseph, Holly, Grandma, like everyone has had family.
Even Josuke and his family and his grandfather dying early on, like establishing those stakes that he was going to take his grandfather's place as the city's protector.
And his mom, like everyone's had a family, like, Giorno, like bad situation.
I love that theme though.
Yeah, everyone else, pretty bad situation with their families and or not having one or, whatever. But them like choosing to come together, like Bucciarati being like the mommy of the group.
Yeah, mommy and daddy all in one.
Mommy and daddy, both.
Yeah, both.
With the Bob.
Fuck, both.
And I just love that. I love turning that concept because it's been so prevalent. It's like just like blood lineage and family, and now we get to see it turned on its head. And it being like who you choose to be your family because of circumstances, or your family being like super shitty people. And these people are just coming together and they're all they have. And Giorno, again, like I said at the beginning, like pushing away from that, not really, like, oh yeah, Dio's my fucking dad. Like,
but I don't even think he really knows who his dad is. I don't even think he really cares.
No, because he did.
At this point in the story.
He knows his mom. That was crazy.
But he had a stepdad, and his stepdad abused him. Like, I want to say he had the most traumatic backstory. Josuke, sure, he was a bastard child. But he had a good life. Like, he didn't know his dad, but he had a good life.
His mom loved the shit out of him.
He had a grandfather who was very kind. I mean, he had a family. He had friends, Jotaro, he kind of got thrust into this world and sent on this adventure, but his mom
loved the shit out of him. Like, Giorno was literally like put in a fucking crib as a baby while his mom went to go fucking party. Like, that shit was like devastating.
That was crazy.
It's like, and he stopped crying because he knew that his cries, no one would hear them. I'm like, what the fuck?
It was so sad.
What
dude.
the fuck?
It was
and
so
then he just
sad.
had like Bruno, where it's like, we're getting divorced.
But Bruno's got worse. Got worse. But that was funny because we were watching the anime and we were realizing that, like, we were coming to expect like everybody's backstory was gonna sort of be like more traumatizing than the last. And not that they all were, but they were all equally traumatizing.
Like Narancia.
Yeah, like Narancia got framed. Like, that was crazy. Got sent to prison.
Fugo
was like taken advantage of by
a
his,
professor.
Yeah, his perverted professor. All very dark things.
Yeah.
And then like Bruno, you're like, oh, Bruno.
Bruno!
We've been waiting for Bruno. And then it opens with like, Bruno had a great family and his mom and dad sat him down one day and they were like, we're getting a divorce.
Pick who you want to be with.
Yeah, but then it got worse.
Yeah, it got worse. But it was just so funny at the start. I was like, that's it?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it really takes a toll on people at a young age.
The only thing I think with Bruno and why I even like, I mean, I do respect his morals. I think it was Bruno that had this experience, but the only little tiny thing with Bruno is that he obviously joined for protection and he joined for very good reasons, I think, or good reasons to him at the time, made a lot of sense within the story for him to join the mafia and rise through the ranks like he did. But it's sort of like breaking point was one day when he realized that the mafia was selling the same drugs that, and I was like, bro, what do you think they do?
Yeah,
I mean,
I know.
they,
What?
and I think he was more upset maybe that they were, because it is something that's been stated multiple times throughout, like not so much that they're selling drugs, but that they're selling them to like kids or, like who they're selling the drugs to is something that bothers him a lot. Like, keep these things out of these cities because these people, don't need that, don't deserve that. Like, but that is the thing about the mafia in general too, like realizing that they are there to protect the people that they care about. And we saw that very early on too with a grandmother who was having a problem with her like abusive son. And they're like, can you go over there and straighten him out? And I think I think that's what Bruno really thought the mafia was going to be and thinks him and Giorno still think should be, is a organization that protects like a community more than it takes advantage of its community by getting it hooked on like drugs and creating all this violence and
corruption with police officers.
Yeah. Which again, the backstories, they were all amazing. And, having, I wrote down everybody's name because there is a lot of people to keep track of, but even having Leone, I think is his name, or Leon or Leone.
Leone,
be an ex-cop and just how his partner was like crooked and he was dealing with like a corrupt sort of police.
Well, it was like
agency, I guess, or force.
And he realized how corrupt it was, and then him letting that criminal go, pretty much him paying off him getting paid off, and then that was he went on to do way worse things.
It was Spider-Man, dude.
Yeah, and he was
like,
that moment. It was. It really was.
It was that Uncle Ben moment, dude.
Yeah. He was just like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, and that was just like because he's like, "I would have gotten you. You would have been in fucking prison, and this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah,
like my partner wouldn't have died."
But his partner was kind of corrupt too. I
mean, everyone, they all are. That's why he's like, "Fuck this. I'm not gonna be a police officer. I'm gonna like be a mafioso because." Or is it mafioso like the top title?
I mean, just mafioso is fine. I mean, I don't know what other word you're looking for.
I was thinking like that's like the head, like the Don.
Oh, just be in the mafia.
Mafia.
Just be in the mafia. I'm
gonna be Ralph Mafio.
I'm mafioso. I mean, I think that's the right
mafioso.
Way to say
yeah.
But now you're making me sick again. What the heck, dude? We were on a track, and then...
But yeah, this again, just like kind of putting ribbon on everything. This part just like really. Part 4 was intimate, and this does intimate on like a larger scale, if that makes sense. Like it feels really large scale. I feel like they're going to many places, but it's intimate because of like the organization, because everyone knows who each other is. Everyone knows where everyone's at. Like everyone knows Bruno's whereabouts from like ears or whatever. Like everyone always has eyes on them, or they have eyes on other people. So it does feel like it's just like super tight knit communications with everyone in this like huge organization. And I like that it kind of brings it in a little bit more.
I liked that it just felt like it was really on a very purposeful sort of direct track that was constantly being pushed forward. I loved that in part 4, it would kind of, the track wasn't as straight. It had a lot more curves in it, I think, and took a lot more turns. But because we felt that way in part 4, where it's like, and it's all like, again, we talked about it in the previous episode, but like training yourself how to just sit back and watch this without like over analyzing anything, just sitting there and enjoying what you're seeing and just letting the story kind of take you. But when we first went into part 4, we were like, okay, where's it going after Dio? Who's the big bad? How's it all going to happen? And Kira doesn't come till way later. Before that, we meet like another serial killer, but then that killer gets kind of like stopped in the first or second episode.
KO'd, yeah.
And then it looks like, okay, well, the arrow, who has the arrow, that person's going to be the big bad. And then you kind of get to that point and that gets resolved. And you're like, okay,
and they're like, okay, there's a dad with an arrow now and a picture, and then it like, goes back to Kira.
Where is it going? Where are you taking me? And I feel like in this, it was like never a question. Like, you know where we're going.
You know what's happening. Like there's a mission. Like they had a mission.
And that's what I felt like too during a certain point. Like, oh wow, like we're still on this same track. Like and that kind of shocked me at a certain point. Like, because I had been trained by so many prior seasons, even part 3 to an extent, even though their goal was to get to Egypt, there were so many detours along that way. Mehgan's dying. And we're back. Sorry, Mehgan had
I died.
little coughing fit. Something was in her throat. She's not feeling great. She mentioned that before.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But like I said, we're going to get through everything we got to get through. So I think we were at a point where we left off, where we had pretty much said what we had to say about our general thoughts. I think now we move into a more beat by beat discussion, going through each episode and talking about our thoughts. I also want to ask you what your favorite stand battle was, and who your favorite character out of the boys is. Although I feel like we should say besides Giorno and Bruno, because I feel like, we both love them so much. But just think about it. We're going to go through all the episodes.
I think I have mine. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to go through all the episodes. Maybe as you become more refreshed on the events of these first 21 episodes, your answer will change. But we'll see. All right. So going through everything, where it opens, where this part opens is 2 years after the Kira incident. So Koichi decides, or is sent to Italy by Jotaro,
which is so funny to me.
which is
so funny to me. Like, he sent Koichi, and he even said at the end of part 3 or part 4, he was just like, Koichi's one of the most dependable people I know.
Yeah, Jotaro loves Koichi, dude.
Loves him.
Really, they really hit it off.
It's like Jotaro is like Koichi. Like
Josuke, you mean? Or
Josuke,
yeah.
Koichi. Like, Koichi's on his list higher than Jotaro.
Yeah,
even.
Koichi's kind of stepped up, dude.
Yeah,
and he's like, I'm going to be the one to go out into the world and help Jotaro with all of these issues.
And
it's kind of crazy.
I liked how they tied into, because we had speculated before, like, even in part 3, like, how are they speaking to all of these people in different languages?
Oh,
like,
in part 3, yeah.
And it's like, because of the stand ability, I guess.
I don't think that
it wasn't that. Were they not speaking their?
I just think that there was a point where Avdol had mentioned that he could speak certain languages, I believe, and then there were other times where I think maybe just, I don't know, people just spoke. I don't know. Japanese or English, or were able to understand what they were saying.
I don't know.
But here it's explained that Rohan gave Koichi
the ability.
Lessons. Yeah.
The ability. Oh, he wrote it into his life.
True. Yeah, actually, wrote
Which
it in.
Is so sick. I mean, he could just write anything. Like, if you want to ride a unicycle, you can ride a unicycle now. Like, I mean, that was really random, but it's just so cool.
That was really cool.
I loved that. And then we watched also, I don't even know, not even 5 minutes, like 2 minutes of the Rohan anime that's on Netflix. And it was like Koichi asking him to write it in. And I was like, oh, and seeing Rohan in that style too was so weird.
So sick, though.
And I was like, what the heck is happening? It's all like tied in together.
Yeah, I'd love to do a video eventually on the short stories.
Yeah.
I started reading them just because I just I needed more JoJo. We took a little break because of the holidays, and I just was like trying to fill that JoJo hole in my heart. And so I started reading them, and it's actually not
JoJo hole.
Yeah, filling that Jotaro hole.
JoJo hole, huh?
That hole that Jotaro left in me. You know what I'm saying? He really stretched me out.
Stretched me thin.
Stretched me thin. But I was really surprised by sort of the tone of these stories. It was very like, I was telling Mehgan, it was very like
scary.
I was scared, dude. It was very Junji Ito-esque, at least in the first 2 stories that I read.
Is it classified as like horror? Have you looked it up?
I haven't looked it up yet, but yeah, it was pretty crazy. But that's another video. That's another time, another conversation. So yeah, I actually like Koichi a lot, and I do like that Koichi. I don't know why I wasn't more bothered that Josuke isn't the one being sent on all these missions, I guess, and I think it's because Josuke made it very clear that he had a job to do in Morio. Like his heart is Morio, and Morio needs him. And so it makes sense that Koichi is the one being sent on all these adventures to go deal with all of these things.
I mean, and also too, like, he kind of made it seem at the end of part 4 that he was just saying like goodbye. Like, I have no like need to see you guys again for Jotaro and also Joseph. Like, he's like, this is my family, but like, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I don't really care to like have a connection with you guys. But thank you.
Yeah.
And Koichi, obviously, like he made him like
Koichi's
his like
overeager, and we love it about him.
He made him his little like assistant. I don't know. He's like calling him. Like it's just so funny that he would pick him. But I mean, I guess I trust him more than I do Josuke to like do this at all,
because you know that Koichi, like I said, he's overeager, he's an overachiever, he's gonna go above and beyond.
Yeah.
He feels like a little bit of a kiss ass sometimes, but I do love Koichi. I love him a lot.
He's just like a little like teacher's pet.
Yeah.
Teacher's pet vibes.
Yeah,
but not like in a horrible
not
way,
in an
but
obnoxious or annoying way.
No, but just like okay, Mr. Joe. What is it? Mr. What is he called? Joestar. Yeah, Mr. Joestar. He's talking about Mr. Joestar. I'm gonna do the best I can.
Yeah.
And they're just like talking back and forth. It's cute.
It is
a cute relationship. Anyway, Koichi's there.
Koichi's there, and Koichi shows up, and he's been sent on this mission to handle some business, and he shows up to handle some freaking business. Okay, he's not there to mess around. He shows up, and they're looking for. This is what I thought was interesting too. They're looking for a person by the name of Haruno Shiobana, who is actually Giorno Giovanna, and has changed his name and is going by Giorno Giovanna now. And Koichi shows up and is met at the airport. We find out that there's this sort of scheme that's being ran on these tourists that come to Italy, which is probably a very real thing.
Scams all around.
Yeah. And it involves this guy, Leaky Eye Luca, and who is mad at Giorno for stepping on his turf. But really, in this episode, we're finding out who Giorno is, and we're slowly starting to see his standability, and we're starting to question what exactly it is, because things are getting turned into like animals, and those animals seem to have their own free will and are doing things on their own. And already I'm hooked. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, I'm intrigued that Giorno is somebody who is going by this new name, didn't have like blonde hair and look the way he looked until like semi-recently. Like this seems to be...
He hit puberty.
Right. Something awakened in him. Yeah. So they have this sort of battle with each other, and they meet in this area of Italy.
It was like barely a battle. He swooped the floor with that fucker like immediately.
Well, Giorno is
it was crazy.
Giorno is also someone who's like, his morals are, I'm not going to hurt or harm people, even if they are fighting me, even if they are coming at me. I'm going to try to judge their character and decide who they are first before. So I think he saw something in Koichi that he definitely didn't see in Leaky Eye Luca.
Yeah, Luca was like, boom.
And that was something that was crazy too, because we learned that, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around this concept, because it is so incredibly creative and unique, but also sometimes like hard to remember every little detail about. But the damage done to the creatures or the living things created by Golden Experience are done back to the person who inflicted that damage. So when we see Leaky Eye Luca at a certain point in, I think, the first or second episode, strike Giorno, but actually strike the frog, we see the mark from his shovel in his own head, in Leaky Eye Luca's head. So Giorno had no problem taking this dude out, because he was a pretty bad guy.
Yeah.
But when he sees Koichi and they have their first interaction, he senses that he's a good person.
And he tries to like escape more than like hurt him. Yeah.
And so he just creates like this tree, which was so crazy and so beautiful and so awesome. And he just kind of escapes on this tree that grows very fast. And then, of course, you have Koichi radioing back to Jotaro, telling him his findings. And I think at the end of this episode, we see, I'm going to make sure we're on track, we see an encounter begin between Bruno and Giorno on a cable car. That's what we find in the second episode, find out more about Giorno and his past through his flashback. And he had a very traumatizing backstory, probably the worst out of all of them so far. He doesn't really know his father. Obviously, his stepdad was very abusive to him, and his mom really didn't give a fuck about him.
No, she didn't.
And you kind of gotta expect. I mean, if she was out there fucking vampires,
if she was fucking Dio, like she does not fear death. She does not give a fuck about anything.
Which I like. Iraqi's like, what kind of person would fuck Dio? And really committed to that character.
Yeah.
And she wasn't a good mom. She wasn't a good mom. So we learned that about him, and then we kind of bounce back and forth between this fight between Bruno and Giorno. And the whole time, like, this is what I love about the introduction of these stanzas. At first, you have no idea what they do, like how they're doing what they're doing, but then slowly you start to understand it. Because when Bucciarati or Bruno like first shows up and he's created this like zipper dimension that he's like pulling things out of,
what?
I couldn't wrap my head around what this could possibly be. But it does end up being like pretty straightforward while also not being, I guess.
And this is, I think, where we get the memes are starting to come out.
Right.
The memes are starting to come out. We got the Cocuine one with the cherries and the tongue. And this time we get tongue on face action.
Right. Some good tongue on face action. Yeah.
And he licks him. Yeah.
That was hot.
And that was, I just wanted to, before we moved on, I just wanted to make sure like everyone knew that we did see that.
Yeah. But we also see in this fight that basically that Giorno and Golden Experience can overstimulate someone's senses, like almost putting too much life energy. Like the life energy that he gives inanimate objects causes them to become living creatures. But what if he puts that energy into something that's already alive? What will happen? And it overstimulates them and causes it to feel as if like time has sort of frozen for them.
Like they're moving. I think they're moving slower.
Right, because they're just their brain is so activated and so active that they see everything else in super slow motion. But it's just because like again they're overstimulated, and in the real world they're kind of just like frozen.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. A really crazy concept. So this fight continues to happen, and that's when, of course, we get Bruno hiding, using his stand to hide in another person, and that was all, like, again, very strategic. I loved the back and forth, and by the end of this fight is when Giorno realizes the kind of man that Bruno is and asks him to join his cause, which we find out is because he had such a traumatizing backstory and family, he found sort of a parental figure in this mysterious mafia man.
Yes. That
saved him and wants to sort of reclaim and bring the mafia back into this era of like I said, like protecting rather than taking advantage of. And I have a feeling that this mystery man is going to come back in some way, shape, or form. Maybe he won't, because there are some things in JoJo that just don't come back, and that's fine. Specifically with the whole Josuke time travel thing, which we've had comments, people explaining that to us, that, and Araki never said that was going to be anything. I think a lot of people just maybe assumed based on a silhouette or whatever. But this might not ever come back into play, but I can't help but feel like it will. Like this mystery person will come back into play. Maybe he's the boss now. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. But of course, this is where Bruno agrees, and they decide together that they're going to basically infiltrate the mafia and take out the boss. Yeah. But to do that, first Giorno has to join the mafia, has to be accepted. So this is when we meet Polpo, who is this giant man.
Polpo. That was definitely a highlight. All of the Polpo stuff was like amazing. Amazing. From like start to finish, like everything involved with this man, his demise, it was just so perfect.
Even his demise.
Perfect.
And we're starting to learn about capos, and capos are a little above. We're understanding the ranking of the mafia, and so we know that we're starting to see how they're going to have to climb up the ranks, what levels they're going to have to get to. And Polpo is a capo who is in this like prison cell and just kind of stays there, but is the guy that you go to sort of as like an interview to be able to determine whether you're going to be accepted or not.
Well, yeah, there's like different, obviously there's different, what are they called again? Capos?
Capos, yeah.
Yeah, capos. So like Bucciarati, like this is his kind of like boss before the big boss.
Right.
Even Bucciarati says like, if anything happens to this guy, like you're dead. Like I'm not gonna, like we're not together. Like we're not gonna be teaming up anymore. He's like, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And just how he got around that was awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is the guy he goes to in order to join Bucciarati's team.
Yes.
And be, involved with them.
But right here's where my brain starts working again, because we get to see the sort of interview process and how Giorno's going to have to how he's going to have to prove his worth. And it's a pass or fail test that involves a lighter and the flame and, all these things that if, you've seen or read the story, But what's interesting is that this stand is an arrow. So this stand can produce these arrows, the same arrows that we've started to see throughout.
Yes.
And
make people stand users.
And make people stand users, which is, curiouser and curiouser to me. I want this stand to come back, but I don't think it will, since Pulpo has died by the end of all this.
Yeah, no, it's gone.
We've seen stands exist beyond the life of their user before. So it's not entirely impossible,
With
but
who?
I do think, like Piggyback, for example. Piggyback was created and then existed prior to the death of its stand user, the person who I guess kind of created or manifested it. And there's been one or two other cases of that, maybe just one other case of that. But this stand might be gone, and this, since its stand user is gone, but it's just, I don't know. It's awesome that it existed so that all of the Mafia now have a really good reason for all having stands. If they pass this test and prove their worth, then they all get shot with an arrow and gain a stand ability or a stand, which is insane. And I love how Iraqi is always how he always creates and finds a really and it seems like better and better and better excuse and reason for everybody in the immediate vicinity to be stand users.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I'm just curious about this arrow, because we know now, and we found out at the end of part 4 that there are multiple arrows. But now that this stand can create arrows, I don't know. I feel like this has to come into play again at some point, or be explained more at some point.
For sure. I mean, we see it in the OP.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
So it's definitely going to come back.
And we're saving time to talk about the ED for sure.
Saving time, like it's gonna be an hour discussion on just the ED.
Oh, a separate video. But yeah, so this is the flame. This is where again Koichi gets involved for kind of the last time in this interaction.
Yeah, he does.
And this was absolutely again insane and such a cool way to show a stand ability be used other than just in battle. Because the arrow user hides in shadow. So Giorno basically causes the tree to die, I think. And the branches of shade that it was hiding under, for it to wither away, exposing it to sunlight.
And there being no other shadows like nearby for it to jump to. That was really, really cool. And I just like like the idea of like a test in anything, like, you have to do that, it's like walking around with like a glass of water in your head and you can't let any drops drop. And it's like kind of meant for you to fail. And the lighter thing, it was just like one after another, like things happening where it could lead to it going out. Even before he, as he's leaving the police station, like hiding it in his hand and turning it into something else, turning it into a flower, I think it was. Just so creative, so awesome. And not knowing in the beginning whether or not he would actually like know if the lighter went out.
Yes.
Would he know? Would he not? Is it just meant to like fuck with your brain? Mental games of like, if I lie to him and it did go out, like, would he even know? Like, I really liked that aspect of it. Obviously,
like, what was the real test?
Yeah.
Like, it has to be more than just a lighter. There's more to it. What is it?
Exactly.
I was really intrigued by that from the very beginning.
And just this whole fight was awesome. Again, we get to see Koichi realize that Giorno is not like Dio whatsoever. Come to that realization, because Jotaro said it's really important for you to like see the type of man he is and come to a conclusion if he's actual threat or not. And he comes to that conclusion. Just says, Jotaro, listen, this fool is not like the fool you fought. He's cool. He's good. He's gonna be
and he kind
okay.
of hides, because I think Giorno reveals more of his plan to Koichi, and Koichi chooses to not relay that information to Jotaro.
Because it's like, I mean, how does that involve? It's not
But
world shattering. It's like, you know what I mean?
well, I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, it could get out of hand. There could be a lot of collateral damage. There could be some ramifications.
But world-ending damage, no. See, and it's like for the greater good. Like he's not just doing it to be like, oh, I just want to be the head of the mafia. Like he's doing it because there is corruption. Like Koichi's seen that firsthand.
Yeah.
When he's getting scammed, the police officers aren't looking. No one's helping him. Like people are trying to scam people left and right, and just like overall corruption. So he's like, you know what? Like that's actually a good cause, and why would I need to stop that? Like, why would I need to stop your dream of doing this thing? Like, obviously, you have way more baggage and way more things you need to figure out. You did try to rob me, yeah.
And I also think that Koichi realizes who Giorno is, and that he's not relaying the information to Jotaro because he doesn't want Jotaro to be involved. And I think that it's because, but it's also because I feel like he senses to a degree maybe that Giorno needs to do whatever he needs to do like on his own, which is why Koichi steps back too.
Yeah.
Even because Koichi's a very, at this point, like capable stand user.
Yeah.
And even he just at one point is like, all right, well, we figured it out. I'm gonna go see some sights.
I love that.
Like,
he
damn, dude,
away.
like there's all this other shit happening, but I think he realizes like this isn't really my fight.
No, it's not.
Really my concern.
Yeah.
I was here to decide or to determine whether he was a good person or a threat, and he seems to be a good person.
Back off.
Back off.
Yeah.
Back off. So that's gonna get us through this, and we're moving through quickly because obviously we're just talking about highlights and making sure, like I said, that we're not really forgetting anything. Of course, this leads us to Pulpo's demise.
Amazing.
Though,
this is what
crazy.
Woohoo! This was so lit. So lit. Just like his speech throughout all of this happening too. Just so creative and so tactful because he couldn't leave any traces of him doing it. He couldn't at all try to do it himself. So yeah, him just like turning that banana because he knew he would eat it at some point. Because he's just eating a bunch of shit. Like turning that into a gun, like a loaded gun, and him pulling the trigger. Like,
yeah, it was really crazy.
Oh my god!
And he really did set the tone for like what kind of story this was going to be. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I do feel like every part gets more and more like violent,
Yeah.
but also in like in a way that serves the story. Like it's never like for the sake of more violence or gore, but this is like letting you know like this is the kind of story you're in for, a mafia story.
And this is the protagonist that you're in for too.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
He just is so smart, and he just found that loophole of like he's like, I need to take out this guy.
Yeah.
But I can't do it myself because Bruno's not going to be working with me any longer, probably trying to kill me. So how do I do this? How do I work this out? Just frame it as a suicide.
Yeah.
I mean, and just it was so crazy. I loved that. It was amazing.
It was amazing. It really was. So this is when Pulpo's suicide, the news of it reaches out to everybody, and Giorno and Bruno kind of meet up and are like, okay, you're in. Now I'm gonna introduce you to the gang. And this is when
to the boys.
Yeah, this is when we meet the boys. We meet Leone, Narancia, we meet Mista, Fugo, and of course we've already met Bruno at this point. But upon like first introduction, because we were deciding who we're gonna cosplay, there's like a whole like timeline. I know like how we reach out and tell people about what to expect is usually a lot sooner. I mean, the timeline is just like of when we decide things versus like when we actually sit down and record them.
Yeah.
Are always kind of a little hard to I guess determine. But before we reached out to our community and asked for help cosplaying certain characters from this part, we wanted to meet the boys first because I knew I was going to cosplay Giorno. And just to update everybody, I've been dieting hard to be able to fit into that Giorno cosplay. And another little update is I tried it on the other day just to see if I was like on the right track, and I got it to zip up.
Woo!
I got it to zip up. Is it tight as hell? And I still have a little ways to go so I can sit comfortably in it? Yes. But watching what I've been eating has been helping a lot. So I will be able to fit into that cosplay. But we didn't know who Mehgan was going to be. And we wanted to meet the boys and get a good sense for the boys before we made that decision. And I just want to say that I think we ended up landing on the perfect choice, which of course is Bruno. Mehgan's going to be.
Yeah, if it was going to be, Giorno, it had to be Bruno.
Yeah,
I mean, they go hand in hand.
We know that now as we get further into the series.
I feel like if you were like anyone else, like if you were like Mista, then maybe Narancia would be a better fit. Or like if you were like Fugo, Narancia, like literally any other combination would have been fine. But yeah, Bruno had to be the way. But yeah.
And Bruno is the way.
Bruno is
the truth
the way.
And the light.
I mean, it's like for like looks, it's like Bruno and Mista.
Oh, really? Mista?
Mista's cool.
I love, Mista's cool. We all know what
I
cool
love how
means.
he has black eyes.
No, Mista's sick.
He's so sick.
I will say, like, upon first introduction to Mista, I was like, this guy kind of sucks. But then, like, very quickly that changes.
Yeah, because his freaking stand is so lit.
His stand is lit.
His stand is probably my favorite.
Really?
Yeah. They're so funny. They're so cute. I love it. I love the relationship he has with them.
Yeah, I might have to agree. We'll see where we're at the end of the episode, but it did remind me of Harvest a lot when I first saw them. But they have more of a personality, and they each all kind of have their own personality.
Yeah.
And I really like them a lot.
Me too. But yeah, Mista and Bruno, like, ooh, okay. That crop top. Come on.
That crop top for real though.
Come on, the matching beanie. Like,
yeah, it's fire. The fits are too fire, dude.
They are.
They're like fucking Balenciaga. They're like top tier. This is high fashion, dude.
Fugo is, I don't know, his outfit's kind of.
They also have a little variation.
They do, but like, I don't know, like the tie and the suit with no shirt. Like, I don't know how I feel about that.
I think they're all fitted to the max.
The color scheme, I don't know. Fugo definitely is like at least.
Well, because of what happens later.
No, but we're like throughout, I did like him, but I just liked everyone else a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, this is where we meet everybody. This is of course where Giorno drinks the piss, and I do want to say, like, with Giorno's design, since we're talking about just like looks, like I love Giorno's design. Iraqi obviously saying that he based at least Giorno's hairstyle on like David and a lot of the statues of David and things like that, which is very apparent and referenced in the OPs and in a lot of the images and promotional art for the season. But I think his fit too, with the heart sort of cut into his outfit and everything, like, and the ladybugs too. Like, it's just
and
really,
Bruno
really
too.
cool. Bruno, don't even get me started on Bruno's fit, dude.
I love how he has like variations. Like, he went to a funeral and like instead of like white and black, it was like black and white.
Yeah.
I was like, so funny. I don't know why. It's like he couldn't. It's like has to be the same outfit, just different color variation. But yeah, the boys are great. He drinks piss, but like doesn't actually drink piss. He puts it in his mouth. He puts it in his disguises it as his tooth.
Right. Yeah.
And everyone's like, did he fucking actually drink the piss? Like, what a psycho. Like, what a crazy man. But he didn't.
Yeah, of course they're all like hesitant to accept him into their group, like out of nowhere. Like, Bruno, where did you find this guy?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we do find that's kind of how they all join the group. Like, Bruno just kind of brings people to this restaurant and then inducts them into this group.
You want a meal?
Yeah. But now that Polpo's death is spreading, there is a fortune that Polpo left behind that Bruno, I think, is one of the only people that knows exactly where it's at.
Because he was like his right-hand man.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
He has to go get this fortune, secure this fortune for the mob, the mafia, and they all have a sneaking suspicion that if he successfully is able to do that, that he will have the position of capo, since there is a giant Polpo-sized hole in the ranks. So
he was so scary.
Yeah, he was terrifying. So they do, and they go on this boat, and now we're starting to meet bits and pieces of this other group within the mafia that's also trying to betray the ranks and the boss. But they're worse people. They're really bad people.
They're really bad people, and they're doing it obviously for selfish reasons. Like, they just want the money. They want the power. And obviously our little team isn't. Well, some of them kind of think that that's what's happening. They just want him to be capo because he thinks he deserves it. But everyone just wants it for, just the money, just the fame.
Yeah. And that's when we get the whole boat fight, which I thought, or the yacht fight.
The yacht fight, yeah.
Which was so fucking cool. And we definitely get most of the time spent on like Leone and his backstory. I hope I'm saying his name right, by the way.
Leone, I think it's Leone. Right?
I question it. I'm not going to question it for too much longer. Let's move on. Leone, I'll correct it in the next video if I'm saying it wrong. But yeah, we get a lot of time spent on like his backstory and even his stand, which I would have to say, okay, yes, Sex Pistols is maybe one of my favorites, but I also love, what is it, Moody, I forget the exact name. I have the stands pulled up here. Moody Blues. I think Moody Blues is just such a cool concept. That Moody Blues can basically recreate, not turn back time, but can sort of replay time and events that have happened.
Yeah.
By transforming
like
into a specific person. Yeah, like a camera. Really,
from
really
the past.
fucking cool. But this whole fight was definitely a highlight for me, because it let me know like what kind of stand battles we're getting. Like, oh, we're getting really, really, really like high fucking concept shit. Like high concept shit. Like there's a boat on a boat. And that's how this fool is able to slither between the layers of the boat.
Yeah.
There's like one boat is wrapped around, and they discern that because of the numbers.
Yeah.
And there's this mystery, and Giorno proving himself by sacrificing.
That's what I like. That was probably the highlight for me. It was just like he needed to, because Leone was like not having him at all as a person, as a person being on this ship with them at all. And he just, totally proved himself and just like threw himself into this situation. And Leone was like, damn, this bastard's crazy. And I was like, fuck yeah, this is lit.
Yeah.
This is it. This is the way.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it was already out of the gate. I was like, okay, we're in for some high concept shit. Like this was wild, but it also made so much sense.
Yeah.
I was blown away. And again, I think I was more invested and blown away because of that sprinkle of Leone's backstory. That's when we find out about his, and we've kind of touched on it already, him being a cop at one point, and everything happening to his partner and that whole situation. And I was super invested. And we even see Bruno and the kind of leader that Bruno is in that moment, because Bruno is the one that's like, I trust you to figure this shit out. And he does. And he does. This was an amazing fight and a highlight for me, for sure. I don't know if I would say my absolute favorite, but for sure. I absolutely love this shit. Moving on a little bit, and like I said, we're going through a little fast, but we don't want these episodes to be 10 hours long, which they easily can be, and we have a lot left to get through. So I think that leads us to when they finally figure out the stand user's ability, how to defeat them, and they are defeated.
And the stand user like tells them where the team is going to be, because they're heading towards an island. An
island to find this fortune.
Yes.
Because him and his gang are looking for Polpo's fortune that Bruno knows. So they have radioed ahead to somebody on this island.
And they realize the timeline. They're like, fuck, they're going to be already there.
Yeah.
They're already going to be there. They can get here so much quicker on like a speedboat or whatever. Like when we get there, they're going to be there. So they're trying to do their best to lure them out.
Yes.
And see what they're dealing with here, which is where we see Mista and Giorno kind of team up and have a little duo. And this is what like really endeared me to Mista's stand, like the Sex Pistol, right?
Yeah.
They're so funny because he, at first when they land, Giorno's like, okay, we're gonna do this, and are you listening? And then Mista's like eating a meal. And he's like, and at first I was like, oh, that's funny. I mean, he just doesn't really care about the mission. But like, he's like, oh no, I have to feed my stand. Like, they get really upset. And I'm like, what is this? What is his ability? And they're just like kind of brats. And I just really like them. They're like a whole other character. And then we get to see more of that, especially with the train episodes.
Which was, I mean, come on, dude.
It's the highlight. Yeah,
I mean, that's the best. That's the best.
Like,
moment
a
of
fucking
the first
turtle.
21 episodes.
They're in a turtle, bitch.
They're in a fucking turtle with a key. I mean, it's a whole.
Bitch.
I mean, what?
Oh, come on. It's giving the most they can ever fucking give. But
because, like you said, like they are autonomous. They act independently of each other. So in effect, like Mista has 6 stands, even though they're all very small. He has 6 of them, and they all can operate independently of one another. So you really find out that he can, send one over here to do this thing and one over here to do that thing. Like, they become so much cooler.
Yeah.
And this whole fight was cool too, with him on the truck.
Yeah.
And this is when we get his backstory, which his backstory was. It was definitely crazy, but also I couldn't really tell if it was like, some of it sounds like legend or folklore, which I also do like, because it was like, he realized one day that, he was kind of a go with the flow kind of guy.
With the flow.
And he realized one day that, came across a woman who was getting like R-worded
literally,
in this car, and realized that he wanted to do something about it. And this entire group of people were like shooting at him, and they just all missed.
It's like three people.
Yeah.
Shooting like direct, like point blank at Mista, and none of them are hitting him like at all. And he's just like, I don't even know why.
Yeah, so he kind of comes to the conclusion like, I can't be hit by bullets. Like I just can't be hit by them. And saves this girl.
Yeah, kills them all.
And kills them all.
Good riddance.
Yeah.
I was like, Mista, Mushka, Mickey Mouse. Let's go. I love Mista. The more I talk about him, the more I love him. Yeah, it was great. Great guy.
Even this fight too, because again, we're understanding the versatility of this stand and how, like, when the bullet splits in half and they're controlling 2 halves of one bullet. I mean, this is some fucking John Wick fucking wishes, dude. Or what's that other movie, like Wanted or whatever, like Angelina Jolie, where they're like flinging bullets everywhere.
Oh no,
like,
that's Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
No.
Oh, it's with Angelina.
But that's also with Angelina Jolie. But there's just like, it was based on a comic book.
It's literally like John Wick meets like fucking Looney Tunes shit. Like, the Sex Pistols are like Looney Tunes.
Well, that was that movie we watched, because remember, like, this is not kid, but he's like a young guy, and Angelina Jolie like brings him into this organization of assassins. And remember, there's that whole scene where she's teaching him how to like shoot a bullet like sideways.
Fuck, what was that movie called?
But I think it was Wanted. I think.
Oh, Wanted. Yeah.
But also like really crazy long distance.
Yeah. It was like an anime movie.
It was like an anime movie. Yeah, for sure.
It was like an anime real life.
And it is based off a comic book, but still, yeah, it was crazy. But it's very much kind of like John Wick meets.
Yeah. But Looney Tunes. Because they talk and they're like, "All right, Misa, let's go," and they're like talking and shit. Yeah. Love them. Love it.
And this was, of course, so sick. But they ultimately, in that moment with the bullet splitting, Misa's able to defeat the man on the truck. There's like a gag moment where Giorno doesn't know that this is all happening and sends the truck driver back up, because they're like, keep going. Stop. No, go back down. No, go back up.
And he's like being hostage. He's being taken hostage.
Yeah. So then we find out that they have a kind of, I think at this point, they all kind of reunite and secure the treasure that's in like a urinal or something.
Yes, he hid it in a urinal, and they find that out by talking to like what they think are janitors, and they're just there, and it turns out that one of the janitors is like a really big head in the mafia, and he kind of like tells
he's a capo in disguise.
And he tells him like, "Hey, we got a mission for the boss for you." And he's like, "Oh, what is it?" He's like, "You're taking this lady."
Yeah.
And it's his daughter. And that was crazy reveal. Crazy character design too.
Well, I mean, yeah. But yeah. And we haven't seen anything. We don't know really. I mean, we know at this point in the story that she has a stand, but we don't know anything about her stand.
No, yeah, not at all. Trish.
So don't spoil anything about her stand, because I'm very excited.
Because we don't know. Yeah, we don't know anything. And the fact that we were like hinted at her having a stand, I was like, sick.
Yeah.
Sick. But she's kind of like a brat.
At first, yeah. And, she's confused. She was basically like torn from her life.
Yeah.
And has really no idea who her father is or why any of this is happening to her. But her father's doing all this. And we even get the sense like pretty early on that it's to keep his identity a secret. If they are able to find her and question her, just like discover more about her, then the boss is afraid. This mysterious boss is afraid that it'll lead to like more information being revealed about him. But we don't know to what extent until like the very end here.
Yeah.
And it is at the extent of others. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, he doesn't really give a fuck about Trish, even though he makes it seem that way. He gives more of a fuck about keeping his identity a secret.
Yeah, which, like, the further we got, I was like, yeah, for sure he's gonna, like, I don't know. It's too much. It's too much. Too much in the sense of, like, I don't know, something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah. And I think it's at this point, I think that I might be wrong. I might be jumping ahead, but I think it's at this point, because the fortune was secured and given to the mafia, that Bruno is promoted to
he is.
What is it called again?
Capo.
A capo. Yeah, he's promoted to capo. And now he's in charge of Trish. And this leads them into some very crazy situations going forward. But also, again, it still feels very linear. Like, it still feels like it's moving forward, because their goal in this first half now becomes getting Trish to the boss. And they all feel like this is an important opportunity for Bruno and Giorno so that they can discern more about the boss.
And maybe see him.
Yeah, and maybe see him. But also, this is a big deal for the rest of them, because, like, the boss is entrusting them with this huge mission. And so really the rest of this part is that, but it's incredible. It's incredible. So the first stop on their journey is they bring Trish to this house, and they realize they have to go. I forget exactly where they have to go. They have to go find this key, or they have to find something at this location that's going to tell them basically where they need to go next. But they're in
like a scavenger hunt, kind of.
Basically. Because the boss is also aware that, like, he needs to create ways to outsmart stand users as well. But in the meantime, they're all in this house, and Narancia gets sent on this mission to go get, like, supplies, basically.
Mistake. Immediate mistake. He's the youngest, I think, out of all of them, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
And definitely, like, mentally, too. He
does seem like the most immature out of all.
Yeah, he's such a, like, baby. And everyone just is like, damn it, Narancia, you messed up again, or you don't know this, or you don't know that. But he gets sent out to get some supplies. Like, she wants, like, blush.
Yeah.
She wants, like, like, Dolce & Gabbana, I think it is. Like, I forget.
She wants that name brand shit.
Yeah, she wants the name brand shit, which was really funny.
And he comes across a stand by the name of Little Feet.
Yeah.
And this was a crazy battle, too, because what we love about all of these battles leading up to this point is we know already, we're being trained. Like, okay, now we're going to get to finally see Narancia's backstory.
Yeah.
And not only that, but get to finally see what Narancia's stand is, because that's always being reserved for these moments. And that's what I like about it, too. It's like, it's a double payoff. Like, we get to learn more about the character, and we know they have a cool stand. We get to see what that cool stand is. So we get to meet Aerosmith, like, which is Narancia's stand, and how that operates. But the battle that happens is really, really cool against Little Feet, which is basically a stand with the ability to shrink people and make them smaller and smaller. But I like, again, in true Iraqi style, it's not like a shrink ray. It is like you get hit with this, and then slowly over time, like, you get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until you, vanish.
Yeah, vanish into thin air. And just all of the elements of this fight, Narancia being who he is, just, like, not understanding what's happening, like, him using his stand to what he thinks is to kill the Little Feet user in the car, and realizes, like, oh no, he didn't get hit, and he's like, why is the steering wheel so big? Why can't I touch?
That's just some JoJo shit.
It's just so funny, and, like, at first you're like, wait, what's happening? You're like, oh, okay, yeah, he's shrinking, and him just, like, trying to find out ways to get this guy, and he's, like, in the back of his pocket, and then he realizes that, and then he goes to the sewers, and he disguises himself with a bunch of rats because he can detect life forms, like CO2 emissions, and he's seeing all of the breath underneath, and he's like, fuck, like, there's, like, a bunch of rats or something down there, and then he realizes one's moving slower than the rest of the pack, and it has to be because someone's
heavier.
Breathing heavier because someone's on his back, and it was just so, like, the payoff was so amazing.
This was so fun. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids type shit.
It really was.
Bro, Iraqi is unstoppable. And what he's done with JoJo is he's enabled himself to be able to really tackle any sort of genre through stand battle. And so, we get to see the Honey I Shrunk Naranja in this couple of episodes, and it's so fun. Like this again, seeing this guy ride a rat in the sewer, and even Naranja with his little like the thing that comes over his eye. It's also kind of flying up by his head.
Yeah,
so sick. And his backstory, of course, being pretty traumatic as well. That he was also kicked out. His mother died, and then that drove a wedge between him and his father. And he sort of wanted to start like leaving. He didn't feel like really loved and appreciated, and he felt like his home wasn't a place that he really wanted to be. So he started looking for like friendship and more in like the streets of wherever he was from.
Yeah.
And he met a guy who he thought was his friend, and this guy was like, "Hey, you look kind of cool, dude. You should but you could look even cooler if you like changed your hair, and you should dye it like this. You should do it like this." He's like, "Really? Okay, cool.
I'll do it."
So he dyes this was kind of fucked, dude.
Yeah,
like,
it really
out of
was.
all of them. He dyes his hair and thinks he has like a new family and new friends.
Like
and
blonde,
Yeah, is wanted and appreciated. And then he basically gets arrested because the guy who told him that he should change his hairstyle and all that was a criminal who like went into an old woman's house and like beat her to almost death and like robbed her. And all she remembered is it was like a person with blonde hair that looked like this. So he was basically like just setting him up from the beginning.
Yeah.
Naranja goes to jail for that man's crimes, and his whole life is just ruined after that. But again, this is what Iraqi's really talking about wanting to do. Like, Naranja's not a bad person. He was just kind of lost. And in being lost, he was like the victim of circumstance that allowed for his life to kind of like become this thing that was out of his control. And at a certain point, the system, his family, everything had turned against him.
Yeah.
I really felt for him and felt like that theme that Iraqi was trying to execute really came through the most with Naranja at this point.
Because he's the youngest too.
Because he's the youngest too. Like, that's sad. Like, when you're in jail for a crime you didn't commit, your life is fucking gone. And he got a second chance, right? Because of Bucciarati or Bruno. But most people don't. And that's what's fucking sad about it, and what was sad about the whole thing. But this fight was really fun. I thought it was really cool. It made me obviously really like Naranja and Aerosmith, his stand. But yeah, so they end up Naranja ends up killing this guy, like basically defeating him at the end. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up and make sure that we're staying on track. He ends up going back to the house with everybody and relaying all that information. So yeah, now they're back and they get instructions from the boss that they have to go to Pompeii and retrieve a key near a dog mosaic for a vehicle which can safely escort Trish. You okay? You need to take a break again? Okay, sorry. Megan's got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back. And we're back.
We should just cut all of this out. It's going to be very embarrassing for me.
Very embarrassing that you're sick.
Hold on. I'll be right back.
Very embarrassing that you're pushing through, that you're giving yourself to the people despite being sick. That's embarrassing. I don't think so. That is noble. That is noble.
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 Shut
up. Okay, so we're gonna speed up a little bit and really, again, give emphasis on the moments that we really, really, really connected with. So again, they find that they need to retrieve this key or retrieve a vehicle which they can use to escort Trish to safety. This is when they come across. This is when we have like our Fugo moment, and this is where they come across a stand user man in the mirror who can trap them in a mirror. Similarly to, I thought when we first saw this, it was going to be another like hanged man situation.
Yeah. Same.
But this is another example of Iraqi doing something again, but doing it slightly different and improving on something that he's done before. Improving a lot on something that he's done before. I would say though, out of all of the stand battles, like this wasn't necessarily my favorite.
I agree. Yeah.
But it was really cool to see Fugo's stand. I believe Purple Haze, I believe. Let me make sure I got that right. Yes, Purple Haze. And that it's an airborne toxin. That's
that he like
crazy.
Really can't control.
That he can't
really
control.
And they're like, back away. Like you're literally gonna die.
I do want to talk about this fight and say that I did enjoy it and that it was fun. But for the sake of time, I don't think we can go that, or need to, I guess, go that much into it. Because while it was a good fight, it wasn't like my favorite. But what we did learn, I think the big takeaway from it, which I, would like to talk about, is that, again, Giorno's mind, his big brain is on full display.
Oh, yeah.
In that he is going to go into this mirror world, sacrifice himself, get exposed to this toxin that eats away your flesh, that pretty much melts you.
Melts you from the inside, like makes your organs mush.
But is going to, and this is what I talk about when I talk about his stand being kind of OP, or him just using the most creative ways he can possibly use it to work to his advantage, which is that he creates a snake out of a wall that was born in the fumes.
In the environment.
So now when it came into this world, it
Evolution.
came into this world under those conditions. Yeah. So it has a natural, isn't, how do you say it? Like,
isn't affected.
Yeah, it's not affected. They're able to create an antidote from it, basically. But there's a term, a more medical term for it. But he's able to use that snake now.
Anti-venom?
Well, it's not anti-venom, but it is an antidote. There's a word for it. I'm drawing a blank right now. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But this is crazy. This is so crazy that he's able to do this.
This shook me. I was like, I was gagunked. I was like,
I was so gagunked.
Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah.
Absolutely insane. And I think that was the big takeaway from this. Just seeing him be resourceful in that way. For this thing to be brought to life and already not have this virus not have any effect on it. Just a genius move. But that was the highlight from that fight, which was a couple of episodes. And that leads us into the whole train sort of saga.
Express train to Florence.
Which, let's just be real, dude.
Sick.
This is the best part of these first 21 episodes.
Oh, yeah. We forgot to mention, too, I think that we also get insight on another group of assassins.
Oh, we kind of talked about them a little bit.
We did? A little bit?
Yeah.
Oh.
But you can go ahead. Keep going.
Oh. Yeah. They're just assassins.
You're talking about the group of people that we had mentioned being another group that was trying to go against the boss, but you were saying that they were more interested in the wrong things like power and wealth. And
well, I was talking about like in general everyone else, but these specific assassins, like they're crazy. I mean that moment when he shrinks down the car and puts it in the glass and then he explodes because he has a freaking car inside of him. Like that whole team is crazy. And we get to see them, but like also
the guy with the black eyes that we don't know anything about yet.
Yes.
Really anything about?
They're so sick. And just what happens to one of the members of their team, like gets cut up and sent, like that's so like Godfather shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, fucking a horse head in your fucking bed shit. Like that was like so sick.
Which I do have to comment on. Like I know I've mentioned in the past that I've never really been a big fan of like mafia movies or things like that. And I think mostly it's just because like I never watched them. Like I never watched The Godfather. I'm so sorry. I mean, I've seen so many movies, dude, but for whatever reason, like, The Godfather I never saw. I know that like Scarface is different, and we've had that conversation too. People have
very different.
Very different. But and it's about like a cartel, I think, more so than it is the mafia. But just like those are, I think, staples, definitely staples that I haven't seen. Goodfellas, like things like that. Like
never seen Goodfellas?
And never seen Goodfellas.
You've never seen Goodfellas? We have to watch it. It's so good.
I've seen Reservoir Dogs. Does that count?
No. Goodfellas is like peak cinema. Like it's peaks. Like it's so good from like beginning to end. Like it's such a good movie.
I saw the one with Robert De Niro, the new one. That was also a Scorsese film. It wasn't that bad. It was long, but it wasn't that bad.
You gotta watch Goodfellas. You gotta watch Goodfellas.
My point is, even though I haven't watched a lot of these movies or movies in the genre, stories in the genre, I haven't consumed a lot. I really, this is like making me want to because I love this shit. Like I love this shit. And maybe it's better that I haven't experienced all of these other films and stories, but this shit is so fucking cool to me. that I'm just having a blast. And maybe now I will start watching like Godfather and all those other things. If they're anything like this, but anything's going to have a hard time topping JoJo Part 5 Golden Wind, okay? Any of those things. Scorsese who? Right, Mehgan?
Yeah, who? Who's that?
Who?
Who is that?
Martin Scorsese.
Who?
Are you just yes-anding me? Or
No, who is that?
Okay, we don't have time.
Huh?
Do you want me to explain? You want to keep going so you have another coughing fit? Huh? You want to do
so
that?
fucked up.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to be. I want to be respectful.
You want to be respectful? You want to be fucking respectful?
By calling
Is that what
you
want to do?
how about this? I want to start being more respectful.
Good.
Moving on. Before I get killed, before I get freaking godfathered right now, and my head ends up in
What is it called? What do they say? What's the term for like killed? Like I knocked him off.
I don't know.
I knocked him.
Knocked him off? It sounds like you like got him pregnant, dude. I knocked him up. He's taken care of. I knocked him up.
You know.
Don't worry about him. I knocked him up.
I knocked him up for you, boss.
Yeah.
No worries here.
No worries.
I knocked him.
He's gonna have a hard time getting in our way when he's bringing a baby to full term.
It won't be a problem for 9 months.
Yeah, 9 months the guy's out of the picture.
You know what? Dang it, what is it called? Okay, anyway, we don't have time for these. We don't have time for this.
The train.
The train.
The best part. The highlight. This is when we come across the Grateful Dead, and I think Beach Boys is the name of the fisherman stand, or the fish pole, fish hook stand, right? Beach Boy.
Beach Boy.
Yeah, dude, this guy looks fucking goofy as hell, man.
He looks a pineapple man.
Yeah, dude, this man is off-putting. This man is so off-putting.
Pesci. Like Joe Pesci from Goodfellas.
Which I never saw, and I apologize. Maybe
it's not because of that, but
I mean, I'm sure. I'm trying to look up a manga picture of him really quick.
If you click his character, it should come up.
It should come up.
Well, that is the manga character. That is him.
No. I'm just trying to find a picture of him.
Yeah, there's a picture of him. If you go back,
where?
Right there, Pesci, right there, up one.
Oh, I see. Sorry. Yeah, dude, this guy looks crazy, dude. He looks like a Gorgonite, dude. He looks like a Gorgonite from like Toy Soldiers, like Archer, leader of the Gorgonites, dude. There's a Gorgonite with this freaking hairstyle, dude. And this is what he looks like to me. He looks absolutely insane, off-putting, no neck having ass. Like I don't like fucking Big Ed from what's his name from 90 Day Fiance or whatever.
Big Ed. Oh my God. I didn't think Big Ed would be brought up in this fucking conversation.
This podcast ever. But and it's just like, him as a character too. It's not just like aesthetically. Like he's the guy who's like, you know, anything you say, boss. Like he's
anything you say,
he's like
boss.
That guy. And then he gets some balls
Big
eventually,
bro.
and
yeah.
It's really all about the Grateful Dead. That's who it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
So the key in the vehicle that they find is a stand using turtle by the name of Coco Jumbo. Coco Jumbo, the turtle, with a key inside. Now, once this key is put in Coco Jumbo's shell, there's a room that they can safely inhabit. So it's basically a they're in a key in a turtle on a train.
Do they ever say his name in the anime?
I don't remember.
I don't think they do. So it's even funny.
Yeah.
Like Coco Jumbo.
I mean, it's insane. It's bizarre.
Oh my God, Coco Jumbo, love him.
But they're
Holy
on there,
shit.
and Grateful Dead decides to release its ability, which is to age people. This is terrifying, and we learn a little bit about science and biology and the human body. And apparently, men run hot. Okay, men run real hot. Which in 2022 and 3, I believe more than ever.
Really?
You know? Just men are out here hot, like, and not in the sense that they're like hot, like attractive,
like sexy,
like quite the opposite,
like sweaty,
like
nasty.
they need to cool down. They
in general,
they just need to cool the fuck down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But we learn that men, since they run hot, are more susceptible to this the aging effect and grow old way faster. It's the women and people who have, aka Trish, and the people who have cooled down their body temperature with ice.
And they realize they don't have a lot of ice left, so they're like freaking out. And I did like this. I mean, it's so funny that it's so fitting that it would be like a turtle. Because the turtle is, it could be really old and, live up to like 80 years or even longer. So it was just funny that it was like the turtle really didn't have any effect on this thing because it would turn everything.
But it leads you to believe that the boss, again, is planning for these things.
Yes.
Is thinking ahead. And that's why the boss decided to use Coco Jumbo, basically. Coco Jumbo. I want to keep saying it. This is where, again, we see Mista step up in a big way. And I loved this fight a lot, dude. This fight was so fucking sick. And we really believed at a certain point during this fight that Mista was dead. I mean, he got shot at point blank
literally
range,
in the fucking head.
In the head. But because of sex pistols, his stand, and some ice, he was able to not only, which sounds like I'm, minimizing it, but it's, ice and his stand bullets, it didn't penetrate him, and he wasn't as susceptible to the aging process. That's when, again, we see the autonomy, I guess, of these stands and how he's able to send one ahead to give Bruno some ice and to relay information to him.
Yes.
Which was so another cool way to use this ability. And that's when we get the big kind of showdown between Bruno and our Grateful Dead stand user.
Yes.
This was, again, really, really cool because Bruno is using ice, but because he's moving around a lot, it's making him hot and he's aging. And we really don't know, like, how the fuck they're going to get out of it. Like, JoJo's been great at never, like, I don't think anybody can ever truly guess how the fuck these people are going to get out of the situations that they're in. But, again, they always manage to do so, especially in this part, in a way that isn't contrived, that makes so much sense, but it's something I would have never seen coming. And here, I think the gore was turned up to an 11 again. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, Bruno ends up like creating a zipper in the side of the train and jumping out with the Grateful Dead stand user. And that guy gets wedged under the train wheels. Like, we think he's dead, but he is wedged and mangled. And his stand can manifest as long as he still has life in him. And he has some life left in him, but not. It's fading, and it's fading quickly. Yeah. So there's a time. This is when Pesci decides to step up and grow some fucking balls. But this whole battle with Bruno having to unzip his entire body. First of all, like, how he was able to unzip, the Grateful Dead, his user's hand.
Yeah.
And then, like, just how he was able to, like, shake him off and make him fall. And then to trick Pesci.
Yeah, the tricking Pesci was probably the coolest part.
By unzipping his entire body and almost dying. And that's again, why I love Mista Stand so much, because it's basically following Bruno around for the majority, the remainder of this fight. And again, has a mind of its own. It's like, Bruno, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? This isn't good. And, I forget the exact word. It's a super important word, but, he ends up saying, like, this is, basically my spirit, essentially. And this is how, you have to prove, even in these moments, it's proven the most in these moments, you're someone's spirit. And they have a term for it, and it's escaping me right now, but this was so sick. And even Pesci, as like much I hated him for a lot of reasons, his stand is really cool, and you do start to understand the versatility of it and how it can be valuable. I ended up liking it a lot more than I liked him, for sure. But he's able to defeat Pesci. And enough time passes, and the Grateful Dead stand user loses his life, and they defeat both of them. And this is when a new stand user, I think his name is Prosciutto was the guy before, but a new stand user shows up with his like baby making stand.
Yeah, baby making stand.
Which this was insane.
Really interesting.
I had no idea, and I still kind of don't know exactly how this stand like operates. So the stand's name is Babyface, and Milone is the stand user's name.
Mm-hmm.
He finds like Bruno's blood and is able to find a compatible mother. And bro, I thought
that was wild
because it was like conception complete, but it was like this woman's hand was on the window. I was like, bro, what is this computer? Is a computer R-wording this like train passenger? Like, what is happening? But when she comes to, like, she doesn't really remember. She's like, oh my God, I could have sworn there was someone in this train car with me. Like, what happened? They assaulted me, but I don't remember. They're not here. It was like
really dark.
It was dark as fuck. I was like, bro, I even had to flip through the manga because I thought for sure, because bro, the computer started showing Kama Sutra and stuff. Real. And I thought for sure, this woman got R-worded on this train by a computer. And they're just not showing it in the anime. But in the manga, it's the same as it's shown in the anime. But like, how weird that it's just showing this person Kama Sutra. And it's like, okay, which way do you want it?
Yeah, like what?
Which way do you want it? So crazy. But yeah, and then it has to like bring it to full term and
then it like completely evaporates the person.
Yeah. But it's using like Bruno's DNA and so all these things. So I think so it can be like formidable against Bruno. This one was kind of, a little harder for me to like wrap my brain completely around. But it ended up being kind of surprisingly one of my favorite stand battles just because of Giorno's growth during this battle.
Oh, for sure.
And what it ends up being is the opposite of Giorno. It ends up being a stand, which I believe then that these stands can manifest different abilities based on like every stand that's created from a new like mother or whatever, which is crazy. But this stand's specific ability is that it can take living things and turn them into inanimate objects, whereas obviously Giorno and Golden Experience do the opposite. But through that, Giorno is able to really understand his own ability even more. And that's when, like we said in the beginning of the episode, he learns that he can kind of replace body parts. Like because it's the body and the organ is an organism that is a living organism. So he can create new eyes. He can create new arms. Like he even tricks him by turning things into other things and tricking him inside of it. And then like the motorcycle, for example, like turning the motorcycle into an inanimate object into a living thing, but not the living thing that you would think.
Yeah.
Tricking him to go inside of it as if it was a body part. This shit was awesome. This shit was crazy. My favorite. This shit was my favorite, and I would have never guessed it. I mean, it had some stiff competition with the Grateful Dead and with Beach Boys or whatever, or Beach Boy.
So this is your top.
This might end up being my top for sure. For sure. But is there anything about that fight or anything else in this area that you wanted to touch on before we move on?
No, yeah. I mean, like you said, I did like the revelation, I guess, that he could use Gold Experience to replace those missing parts, and like that's going to be like super important. We've already seen it work like 3 times thus far since he's been able to use it freely. So yeah, I'm just excited to see like what other abilities he finds within his own stand.
Yes, and I feel like we've only scratched the surface. I really do feel like that. So as we move on, we meet now. Okay, this is where it gets. I mean, again, it just like keeps picking up. So after all this, and again, they have a great plan to sort of elude or escape. Sort of being tracked. And it is how they turn all of the cars into frogs and then have the frogs all jump out in different directions and then turn back in a car, so they're like scattered everywhere. Really brilliant. And how they even tracked down the stand user, which was by turning him into a snake, or a piece of him into a venomous snake that led him back to the user. Like, Giorno's crack, dude. He's on some shit that like no JoJo protagonist has been on. I mean, this man is on another level. So that was really cool. But now Mista and Giorno, the new plan is to get to this new location that they have to get to, which is going to give them the coordinates where they have to meet the boss and drop off Trish. But on their way there, they come across White Album. White Album, who is an ice stand user.
Yeah.
And this was really cool because we got to see two stand abilities really work in tandem. The teamwork of these two stand users' ability.
Yeah, this guy was crazy. This guy was really hard to beat.
Definitely reminded me of like a Kill la Kill character.
Oh, yeah. He was just like, he was just like in it.
Yeah.
Like, he did not want to lose, like, at all. He was pissed the whole time. And just like, you're never going to beat me. You guys never, like, what are you even trying to do? Like, I told you that's not going to work. And you just, like, always one step ahead, or, he really planned out all of his strategy for this fights. Like, he was just like, every time you thought that they got him, like, no, they didn't, because he thought of something else way beforehand. And it was cool to see.
Yeah. He goes on this whole rant too, which was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
On top of the car. And him as a character, like, he was a really enjoyable, like, just like crazy manic antagonist for a couple of episodes. And he really, like I said, it forced Giorno and Mista to really work together. And Mista's really been put through it at this point. He keeps
getting fucking shot.
Yeah, bro.
Like,
he
gets shot so many times. Like, he gets shot so many times.
Yeah. Mista's having a hard time. They're both having a hard time. I mean, they run the car into the water, which was a horrible idea.
Yeah.
Then, they turn some of the car parts into grass, and Mista makes a snowboard. I mean, it's really jam-packed, these couple of episodes. And this guy White Album gets really close to discovering this disc that has this information on it.
Yeah.
But again, like, Mista is put through it, and he gains like the energy, or fuck, man, it's gonna bother me that I can't remember the exact term that's used, but the spirit, essentially, like Giorno's spirit. He it's gonna bother me. I'm gonna move on.
Spirit, I can't even remember what it is.
There's a term that they keep using, like Bruno keeps using it, Mista keeps using it, like it's my own
essence.
No. I'm getting Megan's cough. Oh no.
Don't.
But he's able to be inspired by Giorno, and I think this is the moment, by Giorno's spirit, and I think this is the moment where he really comes around to Giorno and really fully 100% completely is like all in on who Giorno is, and is like re-energized and reinvigorated by his spirit. But he gets turned into freaking Swiss cheese in the process. But because this guy, again, I'm sorry, I don't want to get too off, but this guy, again, like the way he like freezes the blood, because he's trying to protect this air hole on the back of him, like, bro, it was absolutely insane. But they're able to defeat him, and Giorno is able to heal Mista now that he's kind of like learned some of these new, like, the capabilities of his stand, what his stand is capable of in his previous fight with the baby stand.
Yeah, that's another highlight. Like, Narancia is like trying to find them, and he straight up thinks that Mista is like sucking Giorno's dick, and like covers for them, like completely, like doesn't freak out. It's just like, oh, I can't find them yet. Like, covers like just it was fantastic.
It was a fantastic moment. It worked in part 3 when we saw Joseph and Avdol like fucking and sucking in the middle of the street. It worked then and it worked again. Here, all the way in part 5, I'm happy to report these jokes are still in it, and I hope they never go away, dude.
These jokes are still hitting.
They're still hitting. They're still here.
And we love to see it.
And I love to see it, dude. And like you said, Naranjo was like the biggest bro of them all. I was like, all right. Bruno can't find them. Don't know what they're doing. And meanwhile, he's just thinking they're sucking and fucking and doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But he was supportive.
Let them be.
Yeah.
Let them be.
Let them be.
Yeah.
Let them be.
Pretty crazy. But I just wanted to point that out as well.
It needed to be pointed out. Mm-hmm. It needed to be pointed out. So we're really getting towards the big ending of these first 21 episodes. And a lot happens here, and a lot that I'm not even like super clear on, but I think will become more clear as we move forward and go deeper into the series. So Bucciarati's crew arrive in Venice, right, for the final mission. They're giving the boss, they have the data disk, right? And they get the instructions, which, by the way, there's this whole moment again where this is some true, real mafia shit where this guy, the same capo who met them in the bathroom, like shows up again.
Because they replay time,
they use Moody Blue, I think.
Yeah, Leone's power.
Moody Blues.
Leone's stand to show what happened in this room at this time, and it's the Capone, and he just says like, "Here's the mission." Capone. The capo, and he's like, here's the mission, here's the location, and I lived a good life.
That shit was crazy, dude.
Yeah.
That shit was so mafia, like.
And they were pissed. Like, Bruno was like, I'm pissed. Oh.
Yeah, he's starting to get really upset.
I'm fucking falling apart. I'm falling apart.
You're here, and you're giving
I'm
it your
here.
all.
Capone.
Capo, Mehgan.
Capo. The capo.
But that was crazy too.
He did that.
In a way, again, that the boss is using these stands and really getting ahead of all these other stand users that he has to really know at this point are coming after him. But that was a crazy moment.
Yeah, did not expect that.
Okay, so here's where I'm going to do my best, but I think things for me got a little confusing here. And again, I'm very confident that they're going to make more sense going forward. But they get there. Bruno, one person could go in. Bruno goes in. The boss is going to be there. This is huge. Bruno goes in. He takes Trish with him. They're in the elevator. Trish is like opening up about, we've already kind of found out that she has a stand, but hasn't been able to really manifest it yet. We don't know anything about it, but she's there. She's like, my whole life, what's going to happen to me? Yada, yada, yada. And even in that moment, Bruno's like, I'll tell you what's going to happen to you. You're going to get a new name. You're going to get a new life. You're going to get all this thing. Like you're going to be protected. And
I really liked that speech from him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he's kind of questioning it, and he's been questioning it, and he's still making his own moves to try to get closer to the boss. And Giorno has given him one of his ladybug pendants or pins or brooches as
brooches,
as like a sort of a tracking device. To put on Bruno that Bruno's going to put on the boss. Bruno's sort of questioning it, like what kind of man is the boss? Like what is going to happen? What is he really going to do with Trish? All of a sudden, they're on this elevator, and he's like holding Trish's hand. He looks down, and on some Kira shit, Trish's hand is gone. Body is gone.
Rocky and his severed hands.
Rocky and his severed hands.
He loves a good severed hand. He really does.
It's effective. It's effective. Bruno is livid, dude. Pissed. Realizing now that it seems as if the boss's only intention, all the boss fucking cared about was taking Trish and taking her out to preserve his secret identity. He's going after the boss. Meanwhile, everybody outside is experiencing these weird like time like loops or segments and sections of time that are just like everything looks cut and feels cut together. Out of order sometimes, really jarring. Bruno goes after the boss and discovers the boss and his stand, which, let me make sure I get the name right. King Crimson. The stand, King Crimson. Things are starting to Again,
like Giorno's starting to figure out what's going on. Something's not right.
Something's not right.
Mm-hmm. And he runs. They all run pretty much to go see what's going on.
We learn that King Crimson's ability seems to be erasing moments of time, being able to exist in this other dimension where it can see the events of the future up to a certain amount and sort of either erasing those moments or undoing them because, they're aware of exactly what's going to happen. So Bruno is fucked. I mean, this is the most fucked you could possibly be. It's way different than the world, which is able to stop time. Like this is a stand ability that's able to see into the future and actively like do something to prevent those future events from happening. Yeah. So, of course, Bruno gets fucking the most got. And I thought, again, just like I thought with Mista twice. With Mista, I thought on the train he was done, and I thought again with the White Album stand battle that he was done. I thought Bruno was fucking done in this episode. He gets impaled.
Yeah, I thought he died. I cried a little bit.
I was getting very emotional too.
Yeah.
It seemed absolutely hopeless. But again, Giorno, because of the ladybug, is able to see that they are on the move, that things are happening, like you said, things and time isn't quite right. And they are, Bruno is able to escape, basically. But everything isn't as happy of an ending as it seems. Again, because I think I thought Bruno was done because Bruno does die.
Yeah, he does. He does. You see his like essence fucking like, and Stan's users die, that little like sparkle, and like he even talked to him as like a ghost.
Yes.
And we've seen that before. We've seen that with characters. We've seen their ghosts, like even like Joseph and Avdol and Iggy. Like we've seen it. So when we saw him, I was like, oh, he's for sure dead. But then he brought him back, and ever since, I mean, I don't know. They even say, like, after all of this, when they escape, like, he's acting a little off.
Yes.
So I don't know what that is going to connect with. I don't know what's going to happen to Bruno, but I'm scared.
I'm so scared. And basically to just like kind of like make sure we cover all of our bases, the way that Bruno's able to escape is because Giorno shows up and is able to turn, I believe, his ladybug brooch or something into, again, Coco Jumbo.
The
turtle, and not only recreate the turtle, but recreate the turtle stand ability, trapping the boss and his stand, or the boss's stand within the turtle, which is kind of crazy to me and does seem extremely overpowered, and it's something we haven't seen Giorno really be able to do, but does in this moment, which again leads me to believe that he's going to awaken or learn more things that he's capable of doing in the future. So that is kind of how they get away. But when the boss does reemerge, because he does reemerge, he sees all the other stand users around, and he's like, not that he can't defeat them, but he's like, on the off chance that I do or don't, and whether they side with Bruno or me, like I'm just risking exposing my identity to too many people. So he decides not to. And he backs off. But this is where, again, Giorno was interacting with his spirit. He died. Like, this man died and was somehow, because of time. And this, I'm sure this is going to make way more sense going forward, because as we're like looking,
it's going to come back. It's going to come back.
Yeah, as we're looking at the wiki, it seems like, King Crimson's ability is erasing there, because it says that the group is experiencing erased time. Like, so this maybe happened, but then it was erased. Like that time was erased. But how Bruno's soul was able to be put back into his body. But again, that leads me to believe that maybe I'm on my freaking muskrat shit right now. That leads me to believe that maybe in some way, I just thought of this. Check this out.
Oh my gosh.
Tell me how you feel about this. How devastating. Because again, Bruno, like you were saying, gets back on the boat. A nail penetrates him. He's like, he doesn't feel it. Something's off.
He's not even bleeding.
It's not even bleeding. Something is off about it. So what if Bruno, and I swear to God, I might be way off. I might be right. I don't know. This is a genuine and honest guess. Giorno somehow, maybe without even knowing, like maybe the ladybug pendant or some inanimate object, like he turned into Bruno, just like he did with the turtle. Because we didn't see him be able to even do that until that moment with the turtle, and the turtle still had the stand ability. So maybe Bruno, as we know him, is dead, but this Bruno is like a golden experience sort of Bruno with Bruno's stand ability and maybe memories and stuff, but isn't an actual physical living. That's why it doesn't bleed.
No.
So maybe for the second half of all these episodes, we're going to be following like a fake.
Or he's like he's gonna fade away. He could
or
fade
turn
away.
back into a little pin.
And he's gonna have it.
Yeah. That is kind of my guess in this moment right now.
That's a crazy guess. Yeah, because that's
because it still has a stand ability, which we saw in the turtle.
Yeah,
but it doesn't bleed, which is
and he seems like off. Like he seems a bit off.
Maybe it's the. Well, it's probably
Coco Jumbo.
It's Coco Jumbo. No, maybe it is.
He's Coco Jumbo.
Either way, and don't spoil anything in the comments below because we're going to be watching the last half. And by the way, our second video, there's still a little bit more to cover, but I just want to say like our second video is where we're going to be going all out. In our second part, we're going to be doing cosplay. We're going to have Bruno. We're going to have Giorno. It's going to be incredible.
And hopefully I won't be sick by then.
Mehgan, I can guarantee you, she's not going to be sick. We're going to make sure that you get liquids, that you get wwhatever you need to get, emergency, vitamins, whatever, time to rest. This is just because of our schedule. It was an episode that just like, we had to get it done. And because of the holidays and everything, like there was just like kind of a lot going on. So, we just appreciate you being here, watching and listening and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Even though Mehgan isn't feeling the best, but I'm sure not only me but everybody watching and listening, we all want you to get better, so that we can really like go off in the next part.
Get her done.
Okay, I like sick Mehgan. She's kind of
stop. She's kind of sicker.
She's kind of dope. I mean, get her done.
It's funny.
No, that's what I'm saying. I said I like sick Mehgan. Anyway. So that brings us to the very end, where there's now a decision to be made. They've gone against the boss and they've made it known. And not only are they going against the boss, but the whole familia. They're going against everyone.
And they kind of reveal for the first time what their true intentions are.
To the gang.
And the gang's like, we didn't sign up for this shit. Like, majority of them is like, we're not going to go with you. And at first, when this started happening, I was like, oh, okay, like, for sure, it's going to be some hesitation, but they'll, all come around and see the greater good, because they're all good people. And I did not expect Fugo to stay back. At first I thought Narancia and Fugo were going to stay back. I went, wow, that's crazy. But it was just Fugo. And watching the OP back, like, it's so sad because there is that moment when you see them all leave and Fugo's the only one left behind. And I was like,
yeah. Which leads me to believe again that Fugo is in a position now going forward where he's either going to be forced to betray them, because if he doesn't, he's dead.
Well, technically in his mind, like, they betrayed everyone. So like, it's not really, it's like it goes hand in hand. Like, they're betraying the boss. So he wouldn't be necessarily betraying them. Like, they made their choice. So
yeah. But he's gonna have to use the information that he knows to help them all be able to the familia to be able to capture them.
Yeah.
So he's in a position where he's going to be forced to betray them or lose his life. And I don't know if there's going to be a redemption moment. I hope, and I think there will be, but I mean, who knows? It could be.
Who knows?
It could be down to the wire. And Fugo might.
I mean, Fugo is
lose his life either way.
Very scary stand ability.
Yes.
So I hope they made more of that little antidote.
Well, I really hope they did too.
Because I would just, because it's so useful. Because if he does end up going against him at some point, like, that's going to be really hard to get past, especially if you're not fucking Giorno and can't do that shit. Like, if it was anyone else.
Yeah. And that kind of brings us to the end of these first 21 episodes. There's still a whole second half to go that we're going to be covering in our part 2 video. Like I said, we're going to be in full cosplay during our part 2 video, and we're going to be going all out.
I'm so excited to finish this part.
I am the most excited.
I'm scared. I don't want anything to happen to Fruto.
I don't want anything to happen to any of them.
And I feel like it already did. And
I feel like it already did too. I love these characters. You know, it's really hard to give like our definitive sort of thoughts on a part when we're halfway through because those things could change. But as of right now, and again, I want to reiterate that you cannot really compare part 4 and part 5 because they are not the same kind of story at all. But in terms of my enjoyment and excitement, I will always love part 4, and it overtook part 3. But right now, it is kind of looking like, at least right now, and it might change, that it is part 5 at the top, part 4 right underneath it, and then part 3 underneath that. This part has been absolutely incredible for everything that we've already talked about, for the backstories, for the characters, for, again, the change, and Araki really landing on this beautiful art style that he has become incredibly known for, the femininity, but also the changing of the stand battles, being more strategic and creative rather than being more about like fists and brawn. It's about brains, and there
has been some stand battles that definitely called for that, like strategy and stuff, but majority it was like who's stronger. But this one too, I mean, like they are all young kids. I mean, when we got to see Polnareff, I mean, he was how old at that point? I mean,
I'm not sure. You never know with JoJo. They could be freaking 18 years old and look like grown ass men.
I guess so. But you know, like
because Jotaro was in like high school.
Jotaro was in high school, yeah,
and he looked like he was a 30-year-old man
next to Polnareff. I think Polnareff was like 18 years old or something.
Probably something crazy. Probably 19, 20. Who knows?
But anyway, I just like seeing all of them. Like, you know, the idea of like a stand being as strong as like your will to live, your willpower, your spirit, like. That's cool because they've just gone through so much in such a short amount of time in their lives, and it just aids to them just being so badass. Yeah. And I just love them as a group. And I mean, Fugo, like, sorry, like you were my least favorite. So if anyone had to be voted off the island, anyone had to be voted off the island, like I'm glad it was you. Like I'm not gonna lie. And I know there's Fugo stands out there. I'm sorry, but the team is the team.
The team is the team.
But I love my boys so much.
Yeah, I love all of them. And I think it's also just like the setting as well. Like I really love the theme of this
family.
Part. Family, familia, but your own familia. And also
chosen family.
Yeah, your chosen familia. And you know, the setting, like having it take place in Italy, with this like mafioso and mafia undertone or you know, group that they're having to like infiltrate and rise through the ranks of. It's quickly becoming one of my, if not my favorite part. I'm on, you know, Japan side so far, and that might change because I'm having an absolute blast with this part, and I can't imagine where it's gonna go, and I'm incredibly excited to, as soon as we're done recording this, start watching more and really finish this part up because it's been incredible. It's been incredible. But that is going to do it for another installment of Volume 1's Bizarre Adventure. This was our part 1. This is our part 5, part 1 video. Again, stay tuned for part 2 where we talk about the back half and the ending. As well as it ends up kind of, I guess, being like a retrospective on the part as a whole, full cosplay, the whole shebang. We're going all out. Thank you guys for being here, for watching, listening, and supporting. Round of applause for Mehgan. I know she doesn't want it, but
no,
I know she doesn't want it at all. But that, you know, you showed up, and despite being sick, you were here, and you did what you had to do, and you did it very well. So
I don't know about that.
Love for Mehgan in the comments.
I don't know about that. Yeah, hopefully by next time you see me, I'll be better. Hopefully.
But that's going to do it. The only thing left to do before we get to our outro is to very, very quickly, we want to tighten these up in the new year. We want to get them a lot more concise. But we also really do want our thanks and our appreciation to come through as well. We don't want to, you know, lose any of that by tightening it up. But we just very quickly want to shout out and thank our wonderful, beautiful, amazing Patreon and YouTube members. Thank all of you guys from the bottom of
Thank you so much.
our hearts.
We wouldn't have been able to get through 2022 without you guys.
No.
You guys were like, you guys mean everything. You help us out so much. And we really truly appreciate it. And it is so amazing that you guys are so nice and just like willing to help us grow our channel and
grow our
pay
community.
for community, pay for equipment, just like everything. And we're just so thankful. And we want to do the best we can do for you guys.
And we got a lot of big stuff that we're cooking up in 2023. 2023 is going to be a crazy year, and we're only able to make these moves, make these changes because of your support and the financial freedom that you give us to be able to dedicate the time to do all the things that we do. And we wouldn't be able to do that without you. You guys are the backbone of the channel. You guys are this fucking channel. We love you, and we appreciate you from the bottom of our hearts. If you're not a Patreon or YouTube member and you want to become one, all you got to do to become a Patreon member is go to patreon.com/volume1pod. Or click join somewhere next to the subscribe button on this video to become a YouTube member. That gives you early access to all of our episodes. It gives you access to uncut, unedited reactions, anime reactions that we do, and access to exclusive audio and video, an extra bonus podcast that's only available to Patreon and YouTube members called Volume 1 Extra. And all of those things for right now at this moment in time are available on our lowest tier. So again, patreon.com/volume1pod. or clicking join somewhere next to the subscribe button to become a YouTube member. Your support matters like so much, and we appreciate it so much. So if you're at a place in a position where you can afford to do that and are willing to do that, we appreciate it and we thank you so much. But if you're not at a place where you can make that happen, or if you just flat out don't want to, if it's not really your thing, that's totally understandable and fine too, because there are so many other things and ways that you can show your support for absolutely free that really do mean just as much to us. And Mehgan will very quickly tell you about those things.
Yes. If you have no stand, what is the currency in Italy?
I don't know. You put me on the spot, making me look real dumb.
Me too.
If you have no, I don't know, just
sorry. If you cannot support us financially, do not worry about it. There's so many great things you could do for absolutely free. You can comment on this video, like this video, or even subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. These are all things that help us out so much. Commenting and liking and sharing is so important, and it is absolutely free. You can do it right now if you'd like. And this video or any of our other videos. And we do have social media as well. If you want to support us there, we have Instagram, Twitter, and a wonderful Discord community. If you wanted to join that, all the links are down below. And anything you can do for free really helps us out, and it means the world to us. So that would be amazing. Algorithm gang, rise up.
That was great, dude.
Thank you so much.
And it means we can keep doing what we do and keep cranking out these videos for you guys. You guys are the best community on YouTube. Volume 1 is the best fucking community on YouTube. Hands down. We love you guys from the bottom of our heart. We appreciate every single one of you, no matter how you choose to show your support. That's going to do it for another Jojos Bizarre Adventure or Volume 1's Bizarre Adventure episode. The only thing left to do now is to get out of here on our outro. That is always the same and never, not once, has ever changed, which today, Mehgan, is drink the piss. Don't drink the piss. That was pretty cool.
Mista Mushka.
Mickey
Mouse.
Yeah, you said that in the episode. And
Coco Jumbo.
Coco Jumbo. Until next time, Coco Jumbo. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. You want to do it? Let me make sure. We're
Giorno. What is it?
I like Coco Jumbo.
Giorno.
What? Giorno. Bonjour. That's not even.
That's not even. No.
That's not even the right.
It's not. That's French.
Yeah, that's not even the right.
Jesus.
Language. I apologize.
So disrespectful.
That was very ignorant. That was very ignorant.
Ignorant as hell. Yeah.
I'm ignorant.
Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Coco Jumbo.
Yeah, his name is Mr. President.
Coco
and
Jumbo.
His stand is Coco Jumbo.
No, he's Coco Jumbo. His stand is Mr. President.
So let's just say until next time.
Mr. President, we have a Coco Jumbo.
We have a Coco Jumbo on our hands.
Yeah.
Let's just say Coco Jumbo. It's fun.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for any and all ways you choose to show your support. We'll see you in the next part. Don't miss out on that part. It's going to be a banger. And until next time, Coco Jumbo! Coco Jumbo, Mr. President. We have a happy birthday, Mr. President. You little Coco Jumbo. You cute ass turtle. You having ass turtle.